Good morning. I am in Ocala, Florida. I'm right outside of not Miami, Orlando. It's Lynn's graduation weekend with her master's degree from FIT, and we're just doing a quick tour around of Florida for a couple days. We've checked in to a microtel. We came yesterday on the longest flight possible, meaning we came to Florida via Massachusetts. That was just the cheapest flight, or the most reasonable flight apparently, which I don't think I'll ever do that again. That was over 10 hours of flying to get across the United States. That was just nuts. I don't think I could recommend it to anyone, other than the fact that I was with JetBlue, and JetBlue was actually quite awesome to fly with. So we flew into Miami, or I keep saying Miami, Orlando, and then we made our way to this hotel, and that's pretty much it. We picked up our rental and left the airport. We landed in the newest terminal, which was quite nice, and yeah, I guess we'll just check back in a moment here once we actually do something. I don't know what's happening, so this will all be kind of happening for me as it happens for the camera. Anyhow, back in a moment. I forgot to mention, I did do a room tour. So why don't we check out the room? The room here was so much nicer than the room in LA. But anyhow, let's get into the room tour, and I'll be right back in a second. So we're in room 225. After you go through the door, there's an immediate bathroom to the right. It's fairly nice, except for the fact that there is all the black mold on the roof, or ceiling rather. And then coming out, we have our two beds and a microwave, a fridge, which I don't know why we didn't use the fridge with all our drinks here. And then a TV. And then kind of a nice desk. And then a large window with kind of a couch area underneath it. But anyhow, that is the room. Alright. So, not that much difference between this room and the last room I rented in LA, except for this one was so much more cleaner feeling than the one in LA. Admittedly, this one does cost more though, so maybe that is something to go over. I just like the whole setup of this thing. It still had the whole seating area by the window and the refrigerator with the microwave and everything, which was super nice. But anyhow, we'll like I said, check back in a moment at our next spot. All right, and welcome back. I am walking out of the old Capitol building here in Tallahassee, Florida. We have finished walking through the museum in the old part. Now I'm about to step into the new Capitol building. And the new Capitol building is quite impressive. It's really tall. Apparently there's an observatory on the 22nd floor. I can't recall. I think it's 22nd, there's 22 floors. But this old Capitol building is amazing, and although a lot of it is gone, it built up, and throughout time, as it got bigger and bigger and bigger, it became more used by the people that were going to be inside of it. So the Senate and the House and the governor, and you actually could go into all those different areas. They do have a small thing for the Supreme Court, which is actually across the street, actually that way, and we walked by it before going in. But it also has the entire history of the development of Florida, how after World War II there was a huge population boom in this area, and they had to figure out a lot of different and unique aspects to how they could house everybody, how they could educate everybody, and how all the politics was going to be going on, which was really cool. The old House and the old Senate are actually open for you to walk through, and when you walk through the House, you'll notice that there are a ton of more desks that everyone had to cram into. Now, they did expand both the House and the Senate by quite a bit and before tearing it down again for the new state capitol, or Capitol building rather, where they then have the House and the Senate, which are these huge buildings. Actually, no, I'm sorry. One's right there, and the other is right there. These other buildings here are the offices for the House and Senate. And that being said, it's been a fantastic walkthrough. Now, again, walking to the old Senate, there's actually plenty of room to walk around. There's no issues whatsoever. It's pretty amazing the differences. But prior to this new building being built, the House and the Senate buildings right over here on the old Capitol used to actually come up right to where these kind of concrete areas are, I believe is what the lady said. So it is self-guided, but the front desk person was really informative and let us know all the different histories about Florida, and walking through there was really cool. So, and it's free. But I'm gonna go meet up with the rest of the fam in the new state building right now. I have to go through security, so I'm probably not supposed to film that. Anyhow, I will check back in a moment. Okay, so we just finished up at the new Capitol building. Walked in, went through security. That was actually quick and easy. And then went up to the 5th floor where Lynn told me that was where their chambers were. And because everything was closed, there was no real reason to hang out too long over there. I just walked in, looked at, I think it was the Senate or the House. I looked at the House. The Senate had metal detectors that you had to go through, and I didn't feel like going through metal detectors to not see anything. So, it's a real pretty floor though, and there is a cool rotunda in the middle. And then went up to find the rest of the group at the observatory on the 22nd floor. And the observatory is actually quite cool. Lynn actually found a really cool tour guide up there, and she was actually explaining all sorts of things, like the fact the Capitol was built in the tallest point of Tallahassee, with roads that led straight up to it to make it feel imposing to people that were coming to the Capitol. But that being said, the views were also actually really cool, and you could see everything, including Georgia, which is only about, I think she said 60 miles north of where we're currently at. Finally, there was actually a photography exhibit on the top of a nature photographer from the area. His name is Max something, I don't recall his last name, but I did get a good insert shot here for it, so we'll check that out. But right now, we are gonna go look for some food to eat, and I got to gotta find a place so I could take an interview with a company. Anyhow, we'll check back in a moment. Welcome back, and I am at Buc-ee's. It's been a crazy journey. This is the Buc-ee's near Daytona. I missed the one that was near Jacksonville. We finished up at the state capitol, and came down, walked over. I actually had an interview, so I had to leave the fam when they went to go eat at a restaurant, Jay's Street Food. I have an outside shot of it that I could put up, or Jay's Asian Street Food. And then I went to the library, where they helped me out quite greatly, actually. didn't know this, but city of Tallahassee takes its libraries very seriously. And if you're not a citizen of Tallahassee, you're not actually allowed to use their library. And in the sense of you're not allowed to use the like public facilities at the library. You could go in and read a book, they don't care. But you can't go in and like use their computer or hop into one of their offices, which is what I wanted to do. And I'm like, I ran in and I was like, excuse me, how do I rent an office here? And they're like, you need to be a member and you need to be a citizen of Tallahassee. And I'm like, okay, so I'm from San Francisco. I have no idea how this works. And the lady was like, what are you trying to do? And I'm like, I just got a job interview and I needed to hop into an office if possible to have just a little bit of privacy. And she's like, oh, all right. Well, you need to be a member of the library. And I was like, okay, how do I join? Let me go ahead and sign on up. And they're like, for a person who doesn't live in Tallahassee but wants to join the library, you have to pay for every 3 months of usage. I was like, oh, okay. Well, what's the cost? And they're like, it's $10. I was like, oh, okay. $10 for a public library membership. And I guess I get it because it's not my library, my public library. It's just a public library. But the lady was like, but that's ridiculous. You're here for a job interview. Why would we charge you for that? Let me just lend you my library card and we'll go ahead and let you go and use the room. So I did that. That ended up being such like a lifesaver. It was just so easy to do after that. They signed me up. I went up to the room, finished the interview, went downstairs, thanked everybody that helped me out, and then went back to the restaurant to kind of just finish up the leftovers that everybody left me. It wasn't actually all that much food left, although the food was really good. And I have to say I was quite surprised at like, it didn't look good because it was all leftovers, but the flavors were just pretty spot on. So solid meal. And the funny thing is that when I dropped everybody off at the restaurant and looked at the menu was one of those that had like every type of Asian food in it. So those always kind of worry me, but it ended up being actually real good. And after that, we hopped into the car and we're headed towards Melbourne where Lynn's school is. And we passed through Jacksonville, which I just totally just passed the Buc-ee's there without even realizing it. It was gonna be like a 15 to 20 minute turnaround if we wanted to go back to that Buc-ee's. But Lynn was like, there's another one literally on the way, so why don't we just go there? It's just 45 minutes more, as in from that current point, rather than doing a 15-minute turnaround to go back to the Buc-ee's that I missed. And we ended up here. This was dinner. It's actually quite late. I think it's about 10 o'clock. Not 100% sure, but yeah, I'm gonna go with about 10 o'clock-ish. And we've already eaten. We ran inside, grabbed 2 brisket sandwiches. One was sliced, the other was chopped. We grabbed a pulled pork sandwich. We grabbed a sausage in a tortilla, a apple pie, some of the famous nuts that they have here, pecan nuts that were in a sugar cinnamon mix, and a cup of coffee. Everything was extremely salty, but nice. It was good to have food at the same way. We kind of countered everything by buying a salad as well, so that actually helped balance everything out. And then to kind of finish off, we decided to walk around. Now there's no tables or chairs inside of Buc-ee's, so you actually have to come back out and kind of eat in your car, which is what we did. And then we walked back into Buc-ee's to go shopping and check out all the crazy merch that they had, as well as the whole convenience store area that's on the other side of the food court. So the food court's in the middle, merch is on one side, and the convenience store is on the other. It was just a good time. It's been quite fun, and I think we'll check back here in a moment. We're about to leave. Alright, and welcome back. I am walking down the hall towards our hotel room that we came to last night, which was not the one we actually booked months ago. But why don't we do a quick room tour? And yeah, I'll come back and tell you the story in a second. Alright, so we're in room 203. Open the door. And immediately we have the restroom, just your standard fare. Mirror. Oh, Lynn actually used the iron and hairdryer last night. Standard tub. I do wish that more hotels would have the removable heads like they do in Asia over here. Oh, and then the soap set was on the wall, but similar to Asia, but I do prefer those. Have a full body mirror. This is how you control the AC. And then this is the room, just your basic twin queen or double queen size room. And starts off with a fairly large closet. And then the 2 queen size beds. Someone actually set the alarm clock for like 6 a.m. So it actually went off. We didn't turn it off. And so it actually woke us up earlier than we were anticipating this morning. We do have the desk and microwave and the fridge, and then our coffee machine. And yeah, this is the TV and whatever, a TV stand with like drawers underneath it that they typically do, but it's just your basic room. And yeah, let's go ahead and get this turned around so I can tell you the story of why we were staying here rather than at the hotel that's, I don't actually even know. Yeah, that's funny. Instead of staying at that hotel, that's the hotel we actually booked, but we're staying at this hotel instead. So anyhow, let me go ahead and change directions here and we'll get back to it. Alright, and welcome back. So we are staying at the Fairfield Inn and Suites. And the reason why we're staying here is actually we came to, is it America Hotel or America Hotel? It's actually right next door, like I said in the room tour, literally right next door. And we booked it months ago, so it's kind of super disappointing in the fact that we actually booked it way in advance, and then when we got there, the only room they had for us was a smoking room, even though we asked for a non-smoking room. And the room was super disgusting. But give me one sec here. Just put in some items. Here's the key. So to come back to what I was saying, we checked into the hotel next door, and it was a disgusting room. Like, there was food all over the floor. It stank. It smelled like cigarette smoke. And Mom was super upset, so she went back to the front desk, which was actually a computer, like a screen, and he actually spoke to someone that was not actually at the hotel. And it ended up that the guy was like, sorry, we actually accidentally overbooked and there are no rooms available, because he was trying to get us into another double queen room and he's like, there's nothing available. And so Mom just asked for any non-smoking room. The guy put us in a single queen room, but with 4 people that doesn't really work, so we ended up canceling the reservation, and hopefully I'll get that returned on my card sometime. And we came right next door, obviously, to the Fairfield Inn and Suites, where they actually did have a room. It was more than double the cost, but with a AAA discount, that actually saved a little bit. It was like 10% off the cost, which is nice. So not bad there, but it was a pretty crazy event because we just got off of like a 5-hour drive from Tallahassee. We did do that quick stop at Buc-ee's, like I said, but getting here a little bit past midnight and then experiencing that really sucked. Lynn was kind of just like, whatever, we're gonna have to do this. She has to go to bed so that she can get ready to do her grad stuff today. But we're running really behind, and Lynn has been dropped off at the university, and Colt is on his way back with the tickets and everything for us to go ahead and get into the event. So we'll see what happens in a moment. Anyhow, we'll check back in once we have some further information. All right, so welcome back. We are at Florida Institute of Technology FIT. It is a wonderful campus. Lynn has graduated with her master's in ABA, abnormal behavior or something. I can't recall, but ABA, I'll just write it on the screen. And everything went smoothly. It was great. The entire thing was really fun. We were able to get like good parking, good seats.
Lynn Chayatana. Shelby Clark. Alicia Cohen.
Like overall, just a good time. No alcohol required, although wouldn't have complained if there was any. Yeah, this campus is gorgeous. It's just so massive, crazy. Maybe it's just the Florida palm trees making it look good, but yeah. I'll put up some of the graduation stuff. Definitely put up Lynn walking across the stage, and yeah, I think we're going to her the after party deal now. So we'll check back in a little while. All right. All right, and we have just finished up at Versailles Cafe. After going to Lynn's after party at Crown Plaza, we have made our way to Miami, which is about 3 hours away, and checked into the hotel. Hotel's awesome, but kind of strange. You check in at one property and then you actually go to a total different property, or there's the chance of you going to a total different property to actually get your room, which was pretty crazy. We've been able to completely successfully like get it, and the dudes, they're really cool, really nice. And then we came out here to the Versailles Cafe, and the Versailles Cafe was for mom wanted Cuban food. It's one of those things where we didn't really know what to expect, but I knew that this place had great reviews. So we came out and kind of just got the Saturday specials, which was a pork loin, a sampler platter, and imperial rice, and one more item. What else did we get? What was the last thing? Pork loin, sampler, imperial rice, and we got a ceviche. There might have been actually one more dish in there, thinking, but overall the restaurant's amazing. The food was so delicious and just outstanding, but we got to get back to the hotel now and everybody's super tired, so we'll check back in a moment and I'll probably do a room review. All right, and welcome welcome back. We have made it back to the hotel. It took quite a while for me to find parking, but I eventually found free parking. Let's go ahead and do the room tour. And yeah, I mean, this is such a fantastic looking hotel. It'll be actually kind of cool. So let's go ahead and get that re-going, and or get the camera reorganized here, and we'll do the room tour. Alright, so we are in room 802. It is a little noisy out here right now, but that's probably because the air conditioner is right there. And you'll see we have this cool glass door that comes on in. And there's the air conditioner I was talking about. Then we have the two beds. And this really kind of retro styled room. We have a non-retro TV, and then a couple cabinets, the kitchenette, I believe is what he called it, with all the cups and plates and everything available. There's a microwave, a refrigerator, sink. There's actually pots and pans that are actually in there. An out of order washing machine, but we're pretty sure that he just unplugged it. And then we have the double burner right there. And then if we go into the bathroom, pretty decent bathroom. It's actually huge. The toilet, the sink, and the shower. Now this room is for disabled people, so it actually has a lot more room than other rooms, I believe. And then finally, we have kind of the mini closet area with a iron, hairdryer, coat hangers, ironing board, and right in front of it is kind of the dinner table set, so that if you are to cook using the kitchenette, you can have somewhere to eat. But yeah, let's go ahead and flip this camera around and finish off this night. Alright, and I think that's where I'm going to go ahead and end it just for tonight. We'll see you either in the next video or tomorrow. We only have 2 days left, and yeah, Lynn's graduated, she's done. It's pretty awesome. She just has to take her test now for her whatever license, I guess you call it. And yeah, anyhow, we'll either see you in the next video or check back in the morning. And welcome back. It's been quite a day, pretty crazy long. We've woke up actually quite late, and then had some pastries that we bought from Versailles Cafe last night for breakfast, and then went to visit two bridges. First was the Venetian Causeway Bridge, and then the second was the MacArthur Causeway. And seeing both of them was pretty cool. We kind of just drove over the MacArthur one because that's all you really could do. And the other one, we were actually able to walk across the Venetian bridge. And that was pretty neat. It was also a drawbridge, so we actually got to the part where they drew it up, and we're actually kind of able to get like a real close view of it. Other than that, we then went to El Rey de la Fritas, I believe is the name, and we had lunch there, which was Cubano sandwiches, a bunch of variety of Cubano sandwiches and hamburgers. We got 2 hamburgers and 2 sandwiches, and they're delicious, they're amazing. After that, we actually, since we're in Little Havana, we just walked around Little Havana a little bit. There wasn't all that much. Oh, we did stop by something Colado, the famous coffee shop inside the middle of Little Havana, and I went and got some coffee beans, as well as we got 3 cups of coffee. 2 of them were tres leches that had whipped cream, condensed milk, and heavy cream in it. And then we had La Capybara, something like that. I know that's an animal, but we got La Capybaras, I want to say it is, something like that. And that was a condensed milk, coffee, and Bailey's all in one. And that was actually really good. The Bailey's was quite strong, though, I will admit. After that, we actually got stuck in a ton of traffic because there was a 4-car pileup on the highway coming down here to Hollywood Beach, which was the one that Mom wanted to come to, even though we're staying at Miami Beach, pretty much at the hotel there, and you could walk to the beach from there. But this is the one Mom wanted to come to, so this is the one we're at. We're gonna go get dinner after this. The light is going down quite quickly here, so I'll probably try to get some drone shots real quick so I could at least fly my drone once. But other than that, we'll check back in a moment. Let's see what happens. All right. Alright, so quick insert shot here. I forgot to film dinner and kind of the beginning of the next day. So after Hollywood Beach, we drove far south to Sabores Chilenos and had some Chilean food. It was kind of something similar but different at the same time. We got like a stew and piñatas and something with like a maize on top, like a corn bread type item that was on top of almost like a meat pie, I would say. And that was Colt's favorite meal of the entire trip. It was actually really good too. There was nothing wrong with it. As for my favorite, I don't know. That the other places we've been to so far, I've really given it a run for its money. All the food's been great in Florida though, so props to them. Anyhow, that's kind of how we end our night. It's real short. We had dinner, went home, slept, got up early because we had to go back to Orlando from Miami, and that was quite a while's drive. I would say that probably one of the notable things is while I was at the restaurant, Sabros Chilenos, one of my buddies' moms reached out and was like, "Oh, you're in Miami. You should try Vicky Bakery." And it's not Vicky's Bakery, but Vicky Bakery. And it's a Cuban bakery that's kind of located only in the Miami area. There might be a onesie or twosie here or there, but like in Miami, there's just hundreds. The thing is that I was like, okay, yeah, sure, why not? There's literally one on the road as we're driving to Orlando. There's more than one on the road driving to Orlando. So we just, in the morning, stopped by a local Vicky bakery and grabbed some Cuban baked goods, some cakes, some like breakfast goods, pastries, and some empanadas again, and then just took everything to go, grabbed a cup of coffee, and started on our way up. And it was just a long drive. So long, in fact, that I decided to take a break at one of the service areas and grab a cup of coffee from a Dunkin' Donuts or a Krispy Kreme. I can't remember, one of the two. But just a generic coffee or donut shop for coffee. And Mom has never seen one of these like magnificent service areas like in the United States. She's seen them in Japan, and I'm pretty sure she's seen them in other parts of Asia. But with the turnpike, you need to have kind of these turnoffs. And she didn't realize that Buc-ee's was actually one that we went to the other night. But this service area was kind of one of its standalones. You know, they have the gas station, kind of a mechanics area, or like a fix area for trucks, and then the just food hall, I guess you could call it, the food court area. And that really like shocked Mom, everything she saw there. She was really, really impressed, and all I wanted was a large cup of coffee. So she was walking around, and I got my cup of coffee, and then we just kept continuing on to get to Perkins, actually, which is kind of like this IHOP, or I would say it's between an IHOP and a Denny's. I don't know if there's like, so Denny's being like the lowest end and IHOP being highest. It's somewhere in between. It was just one of those type of, as the Japanese would say, family diners. And it was decent. It wasn't anything to write home about, I would say, but Colt was really missing it, and he hasn't had one in such a long time. And so the main reason we went was because Colt wanted the French toast, which was delicious. I will give them that. But again, I would say that it's probably better than Denny's or IHOP because they use actually a brioche bun rather than regular toast or Texas toast. And that's actually super nice. We've learned to do so at home on our own. So I think we've kind of perfected that French toast game. But mom got a pork chop. I think Lynn got a salad. And then I got the pot roast. But again, nothing too special. Just a quick meal at Perkins. And then we went to Disney Springs because actually, aside from me, no one's ever been there in our group. So I was looking for the free spot or free parking area that I took last time. And maybe this is a thing. Maybe all the parking there is free now. I'm not aware, but all the free parking spots that I knew of were actually closed, and we actually had to park in a parking garage, lime or orange or something like that, a citrus fruit if I recall correctly, because the opposite one was mango. And we got out, walked through security. I guess that's the first thing. And then walked around Disney Springs. And I say walk through security because the last time I was at Disney Springs, there was no security. I just got out of my car and walked straight into the area. So things have definitely changed. But mom was just blown away how this was like a free area for you to walk through. She was really hesitant at first because she thought it was going to be like Disney World, but it's not. Everything is just a regular, it's kind of like a fancy shopping plaza or shopping area. And you could go walk through the entire area. Mom was really blown away with the Rainforest Cafe that they had there. We walked and saw just the various shops. We saw the World of Disney, I believe that's what it's called, which is the mega Disney store. They have one in downtown Disney as well. I would say Disney Springs, in my opinion, is better than downtown Disney, being that I've been to both within the last couple of years now. Downtown Disney is nice, and I would say it has more Disney-oriented stuff. So like the last time I was at downtown Disney, they had like the Cruella de Vil car out on display because Cruella just came out. But Disney Springs just has this nice kind of feel to it. It's massive. Like it feels so much larger than downtown Disney is, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is. From the blimp that goes up and gives you like a great view of the area to we watched a car get launched into the water. There's this whole area where there is a car that turns into a boat, and it's pretty amazing. Last time I was there, they weren't doing it, so I didn't get to see a boat launch. But this time they were, and they were super busy. But what was kind of weird about it, or funny about it, was that I thought you get to drive the boat. It's actually piloted by one of the people that work there. So he actually goes through the whole like safety features and everything, kind of like that little prepare for takeoff in a plane type deal where he's, the exits are here or whatever, and in case of emergency, should this have to blah, blah, blah. And that was actually a really long explanation. But then he just drove the car right into the water and just took off into the lagoon thing, and they just kept driving on. That was pretty amazing. Other than that, we also went to an old Disney, like a retro Disney store. So they had like I said, World of Disney before, and then they had this kind of classic Disney World area where they had all this retro design, but all the items inside were new. So it was like they had like cell phone cases and stuff like that were all Disney themed. Yeah, that pretty much finished our time in Orlando. We then had to go fill the tank up and get back to Orlando Airport so we could take off to come back home. It was a direct flight from Orlando to San Francisco, so not much to talk about there. But I will say this, the pre-TSA that comes with my global entry was a lifesaver. Like, I dropped Lynn, Colt, and Mom off at the departures, got stuck in traffic at departures, finally was able to come around and successfully return the vehicle. Then I went through the pre-TSA security area, got onto a train because the terminal for our plane was actually at like another area, got to the other side, and for the 6-hour flight back, I picked up some Wendy's for everybody, and I was done with all that waiting at the gate before Lynn, Mom, and Colt were actually able to get to that side. So talk about a time saver. That was like pretty crazy to me. And Lynn was mentioning how it was a real like smart move to drop them off first before I went to go return everything and then use my pre-TSA, because the line was crazy long for them. Ironically, like, this is kind of the first time in the States where I felt, oh yeah, this has really helped. Because at LA, which I know that's probably like a crazy occurrence, and all the times that I've been to San Francisco, I've never had any delays going through security. It's just been like I walk through within 15 minutes at most. I mean, knock on wood, right? But we'll see what happens here in a couple of weeks when I go to Thailand. But yeah, it's been great. Anyhow, like I said, I got everything, waited for them at the gate. We all met up, got onto the plane, and then, yeah, we'll go ahead and continue from there. All right, welcome back. We are at SFO now, and that'll end our graduation trip for Lynn at Florida. She has successfully graduated with her master's degree, which is amazing. Now all she has to do is pass the test, and she'll be a licensed therapist. Anyhow, that'll end the vid. All right, until the next one.
Lord God, we rejoice in your presence and thank you for the honor and privilege of serving and educating these graduates. In business classes, they learned how to make money. We also hope they learned how to share it. In management, they were taught how to allocate resources, but we also hope they learned how to be caretakers of the earth. In astronomy and aviation, they learned how small the world is. We want them also to know that it is a sacred creation. In geography, they learned to recognize borders, but we're also taught to see beyond them. In psychology, they learned how human beings behave. May their behavior always be that befitting human beings. In computer science, they became skilled in algorithms and searching for information. We hope they learned to seek truth as well. In engineering, they learned to harness complex forces. May they always do so at the service of the human family. In biology, they learned the mechanics of life. May they also respect and treasure life. In mathematics, they learned the language in which God has written the universe. May they also learn to listen to and perceive the author of all. Our graduates were taught to succeed, but are also called to help those who sometimes fail. Lord, we pray that these graduates have achieved all this and much more beside. Our prayer for them today is that they will be poor in misfortune, rich in blessings, slow to make enemies, and quick to make friends. Rich or poor, quick or slow, know that by the grace of God, they are now and always will be Panthers who have a home here and here in our hearts. Amen.
The issues you face today compared to the issues we faced in 1986 when we graduated. What was going on in the nation? So I went to one of the most trusted sources in academia to start my research, Wikipedia. Here's what I found. So in the news, NASA's been in the news quite a bit in 2022 with the DART program where we actually shot a rocket and hit an asteroid. Who'd have thought? And obviously the successful Artemis mission where we actually sent an unmanned capsule around the moon and it returned safely. Candidly, I thought we did that in 1969, but good for us this year. NASA was also in the news in my day in 1986. This is kind of the height of the space shuttle program, but we did have the unfortunate Challenger disaster, which I personally witnessed right here in Melbourne. But we had some good news stories too, where the Voyager 2 space probe actually reached as far as the planet Uranus. In Hollywood, Top Gun was released in 1986, and apparently again in 2022. On racial equity, Martin Luther King Day Jr. was officially recognized for the very first time on January 20th, 1986. Well, in your day, Ketanji Brown Jackson becomes the first black woman Supreme Court Justice. So a little progress. You had natural disasters, earthquakes and fires. You had fires and hurricanes. We had political controversy. Who's heard of the Iran-Contra scandal? It was pretty significant in our day and really was in the news. You have the January 6th hearings. Dr. Polson was teaching at FIT in 1986 and apparently still is. So as I continued my research, I realized really there wasn't enough difference to continue to pursue this, so I moved on. Over 36 years ago, I sat in the very same chair you sit in today, which, by the way, looked just as uncomfortable. I enjoyed my time at FIT. I met the love of my life. I created many memories that I couldn't share with my parents, and therefore I'm not going to share them with you. And while you are very excited to leave Florida Tech and embark on your next journey in life, don't be surprised by the connectivity that you have with Florida Tech. The many friends you've made, the experiences, both good and bad, and the stories you will tell. So to this day, I have a story that I often tell my colleagues from my time at Florida Tech. So I'm going to share that with you. Studying under Dr. John Morris, we were tasked with quantifying the assimilation of seagrass in the manatee diet. Basically, how much energy does the manatee get from eating seagrass? All that sounds cool and sciencey until you actually see the study methods. My task was to follow a manatee around, swimming behind him, close enough to act, but not too close to disturb him, and at the moment of execution, collect his poop and put it in a mayonnaise jar. Very sexy work. So we then use a bomb calorimeter, burn the poop to see how much energy was actually in that poop. Unfortunately, the smell was so horrific that we had to cancel classes at the Edwin Link building for an afternoon. In short, we collected poop and burned it. Unfortunately, I found myself doing that 5 years later in the Marine Corps. Your connectedness will follow you as you navigate your careers. I finally think of crossing paths with fellow alumni as we pursued our mutual careers. Dr. Dwayne DeFries was a student professor who actually taught at that time, and good news is wasn't above actually canceling class if the surf was good, which many of us appreciated. As we both grew in our careers, our paths would occasionally cross, and we would catch up. And I still consider him a great mentor and friend. Even as a Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commissioner, I would read studies by Dr. Ken Lindeman, who actually is a professor here today, talking about Goliath grouper. And the things that he would actually write would help shape my decision making. So while you look in that rearview mirror on your time at Florida Tech, don't be surprised to see glimpses of Florida Tech in the windshield in front of you. So apparently, as the old guy who's near the end of his career, it's tradition to leave you with some pearls of advice on success, career, and possibly how to even achieve world peace. Speaking with you today is the Chief Environmental Officer of the largest electric company and clean energy company in the world. I sometimes ask myself, how did I get here? So I had a very simple three-phase plan. Phase one, I'll join the Marine Corps, serve my country. Phase two, I'll marry my college sweetheart, who, by the way, does have a computer science degree from Florida Tech, and therefore would be able to financially support us in our future. By the way, she supported this plan, let's be clear. And then finally, I'll begin my career as a biologist for the rest of my life. Fairly simple. Surprisingly, for the first 4 years, my plan went off without a hitch. I joined the Marines, I married my college sweetheart, and we got stationed in Hawaii, which was a really big added bonus. Unfortunately, around year 5, I found myself in the middle of the desert in Southwest Asia, and ultimately in the middle of a minefield with a tank battalion as we embarked on the ground war during Operation Desert Storm. Fortunately, I returned home safely and began my job hunt with little initial luck. And in fact, it got so bad I actually did telemarketing. I don't recommend it. Finally, through perseverance, I became employed as a biologist with the state. My first state job was a biological scientist 1. That's right, the very bottom. But I was thrilled to have it. Fast forward 16 years, and I'm running as Secretary of the Department of Environmental Protection, that program. In the next decade, I'm fortunate enough to be asked to be the Chief Environmental Officer for the largest electric company and clean energy company in the world. I've had the privilege of leading Florida's environmental protection divisions or departments. I've also served as Vice Chair of the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, responsible for Florida's wildlife, game, hunting, fishing, and conservation. And right now, I help lead America's decarbonization through one of the most bold and transparent decarbonization efforts in the nation. Next era is Real Zero. But let's get back to the question. How did I get here? Let me assure you, with exception to marrying my college sweetheart, since she's here, I did give you that caveat. My plan had absolutely nothing to do with my success. Candidly, it's all about execution. In life, very little goes according to plan. And the most important thing you can do is be present in the moment. This is not to say that you shouldn't have your eye on the future. Rather, your future will often be shaped by the actions you take in the present. It is the things we do today that prepare us for tomorrow. So Next Era has 3 values that really talk to this be present. The first one, committed to excellence. The second one, do the right thing. And finally, treat people with respect. Pretty simple, right? These are things that we all can do. So be committed to excellence in everything you do, whether it's sweeping the floors at the pop shop or whether you're leading Florida's environmental response to the Deepwater Horizon or BP oil spill. Regardless of the task, always do your best, and you'll go home every night feeling good. Some nights will be later than others. Do the right thing. This is how you'll sleep like a baby every night. And I guarantee it, regardless of the challenges that face you, nobody regrets doing the right thing, even if we find out later on that it was wrong. Because you knew at the time you made the decision based upon the information you had, and it was the right decision. And by the way, don't forget to always trust your instincts. I found they're actually correct more often than not. Finally, just because something is legal, authorized, or approved, doesn't necessarily make it right. As an example, did you know in 2007 it was perfectly legal to dump hundreds of millions of minimally treated wastewater into our oceans? Hundreds of millions of gallons a day. Think about that. That was perfectly fine. We knew that it wasn't right. And in fact, upon inspection, which by the way, I don't recommend you diving in a wastewater ocean outfall. It's not pleasant. It was clear that there was harm being made to the marine environment. We had to take action. So we worked with the legislature and the governor, and we actually passed a law to change it. Doing something right actually means looking at the real scenario and taking action that you think is the right thing to do. You'll not always achieve it, but again, you'll sleep like a baby. Finally, the last value, treat people with respect. Clearly, the nation could spend a little time on this topic, because if you watch the news, it's a little scary out there. And admittedly, I'm not no saint, because sometimes when I'm driving in Miami traffic, I get challenged as well. But the reality is, really embracing everyone as your equal. Regardless of age, race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, economic status, we're all just people. Learn to recognize your unconscious biases. Manage them, confront them, and open your mind to others' opinions. In the end, you don't have to agree, but you will grow much faster if you learn to listen and respect others' points of view. Finally, in addition to these very straightforward values, I want to offer one more recommendation. Take measured risk. Often we're taught that risk is a bad word, but in reality, it's something we manage in our day-to-day lives. It's inherent in what we do to succeed, and playing it safe with your career doesn't always pay off. You must be prepared to manage your risk-reward decision-making, because later, sooner or later, we're going to be faced with some very tough decisions. I'll give you an example. 5 years into my career, I'm working as a biologist in the Division of Beaches and Shores, working on marine turtles. Dream job, loved it. Out of the blue, I was suddenly asked to run the tanks program, which had to do with petroleum, storage, and remediation. Really not sexy. It really wasn't something I was familiar with. I knew that when I went to fill up my car, gas was stored underground, but that was the extent of my knowledge. And I guarantee my knowledge in the tank battalion had nothing to do with this. But the reality is this program had challenges, and they were looking for somebody to turn it around. I took the risk. I took the job. I turned the program around in a positive way and eliminated quite a bit of controversy for the state. Had I said no, who knows where my career would have landed. And by the way, I did eventually leave the Division of Beaches and Shores and the Marine Turtle Program. Being bold, taking on new challenges, and having the courage of your conviction are instrumental in success. Yes, by taking these risks, sooner or later you're going to fail. But as Albert Einstein stated, a person that has never made a mistake never tried anything new. Most importantly, enjoy the experience. You have much to look forward to. Falling in love, getting that dream job, having children, achieving that major accomplishment at work or at home. Embrace life. Take time to enjoy the environment. It's amazing what the world has to offer. Speak up and speak the truth. To the Florida Tech class of 2022, as we used to say in the Marine Corps, take charge and congratulations.
Strikes me as I've been sitting here and standing here and shaking the hands of all of our graduates, how proud everybody in this room is of all of you, because we know how hard you've worked. And we extend to you our warmest wishes for a fabulous and exciting future. As you commence this new stage of your life, your alma mater expects you to continue on the search for excellence. Before we conclude, I especially want to thank the members of the Florida Tech staff who contributed to preparations for these exercises. Please join me in thanking them. And now, in perfect pitch, I would ask the audience to rise and join in the singing of our alma mater. The words are printed on the back of your book.
Please remain standing until the academic procession has withdrawn from the auditorium. When exiting, to avoid congestion, we ask that you move through the lobby to the parking lot.
Tried that for years with mine, then I realized that they had any money for mine. That's probably how they got it.